My new hat is so dope.
And if anyone should ask me the reason why I'm wearing it, it's all for my true love.
So I thought tonight, I guess, we'd talk about the reason I wear a hat, but from like a behavioral perspective. Is it a sensory sort of thing? Is it a security blanket? All valid questions, but off the mark. Spoiler alert, it's actually really simple. I used to always wear a hat when I was younger, before I got into the field, and then I just kind of brought it back. But since it's a daily BA, we're gonna bring some behavior analysis into this. So let's just roll that intro. That trailer just looking so good. Welcome back. It's nice to see your faces. Hello. It's awesome. We just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. You know that? You helped make that happen. Thank you so much. So much. I mean, I never would have imagined we'd grown this fast. But here we are. I've heard that the first 1,000 is the hardest. You know, like the 1 to 10 mark is really hard. And then it gets a little bit easier from the 10 to 100, a little bit easier from the 100 to 1,000. So it's exciting when we pass these marks. So let me know how long you've been watching down below. Now let's jump back into that content. Now I used to wear them in the right way, the socially acceptable way, the way in which, you know, this way, you know, like the way where you can keep the sun from coming out of your eyes. But then I started getting into hats again, and they just had these flat brim hats, and I just think that this looks ridiculous. I don't like it as much. So what I did is I just turned it around one day and it just kind of stuck. Now the other side of this is about 3 years ago, I just started losing my hair. And thanks, Pops. I'm pretty sure this came from you. That's what I get for making fun of you all those years. You know, like jokingly. This has been a point of contention in my life in some ways. People like to make fun of it now and then, but not for me. It's cool. You know, like I can't control this or what ability I may have. I just don't care to. So, I mean, there's a lot of other things I could put money into. Let's be realistic. That just doesn't sound like a place to put money. And you know what an easy way is to not have to do your hair or like deal with what you're gonna do next? That's it. Very simple. All right, so back to the behavior analysis. People typically talk about this in one of 4 ways. There's 4 functions or 4 reasons that we do the things that we typically do. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this model all the way out. I know that's a little bit different. I think it's more complex. We'll maybe get a little taste in that today, but to start with, we're gonna look at it from those ways, all right? So we have attention, escape, tangible, and either sensory or automatic components, and let's just jump into those more. These 4 functions come from Iwata et al., and they have been the pinnacle of our science and our field. All right, let's take the first one. Maybe it's escape or avoidance. Maybe, let's see. Maybe it's the escape or avoidance of the comments about my bald head. Those things used to be made, jokingly or not. That could be a reason, right? The attention component. Maybe it's the questions that I get down there. Why do you wear a hat? Sometimes those things are submitted in the closed Facebook group that we bring in for all the patrons. They're my favorites to read. We don't know. The tangible components. Maybe it's just something that's fun for me to kind of have access to all the time. Or our last one, the sensory. Maybe it's something like the feeling of it that is just like reinforcing of itself. So I just gave a couple quick examples of 4 different functions, how it may fit into those sorts of things, but which one is right? Well, I would say that first you need data, and you probably don't have any. And maybe we mislabeled it as one of those 4. Maybe there's a 5th. Have you ever heard of counter control? The controller trying to control the controllee leads to the controllee trying to implement procedures that will control the controller, if that all made sense. This raises some questions with this 4-function thinking. I would say at best, what you have is some categories that you then have to further define. And if I really wanted to poke at something, you think about it, is this any different than as we get to with like diagnostic and statistical manuals, perhaps maybe like the 4th, 5th edition? I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on that down below. Let me know. The question is what point does our 4 functions start to turn into this diagnostic model and start to fit in this medical model rather than a function-based and contextual approach to behavior like our field was really founded upon by Skinner and the functional contextual movement of the that I've highlighted on this channel. I'll link some videos actually on some of those articles from Context Press. It's a really deep-rooted issue. The point being, at what point has our four-function model turned into a diagnostic process? Do you think that this movement has led to that and this data has led to that? And what data are backing that model is better than anything that's not that model? There's a lot to dive into this if you want to. Maybe suggest some future ideas on how to pull this apart in videos down below. But as for my hat, well, let's just say that under a bunch of different contexts, it can be functioning as a lot of different things. There is not this one set reason that I wear it. It could be for any of the reasons I suggested. It could even be more, perhaps even some sort of establishing operation for asking me more questions about it. Or maybe it's an AO to other behavior that may be indicative of something more academic that this channel clearly doesn't line up as much with, although we do value that here. I mean, there's the hats on the table, I don't know, the cards on the table, there could be a lot of different things here. So let's wrap this up on one last thought. The process of science does not have an end-all be-all like we have found it. That is not it. All right, it's this contextual thing. We're always moving forward towards some sort of goal that we've specified. The FA methodology, the goal here was to be able to predict and influence behavior better. That said, it was a great step in those ways. Not perfect, but a great first step. Now, there's other ways to look at it a little bit more specifically than those four functions, and it is the effect that it has on the environment. I've always found that a lot more useful. Maybe that's something that you'll find useful as well. That is the definition that I was taught as what function actually means in our field when we're talking about it. And looking at it that way has always been a lot more useful for myself when it comes to developing interventions, because you're not looking for this kind of like cookie cutter, like let's paste these things together based on one of the four functions. You're finding the intricacies that actually are controlling the behavior and developing an individualized solution for that. Now, if you're liking these words or you have any points of contention, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm glad to continue the discussion, and I'd love to just see the community kind of pick this up and pull it along a little bit further. As for my hat, well, next time that I see you, let's talk about in the moment what actually might be going on. And if you're into this, and only if you're into this, please smash that share button, like, share. It actually makes a huge difference. And thank you again to the 1,000 subscriber mark. It's amazing. Appreciate it. That's your Daily BA.
Things on my head.